My name is Lucas Hartley, an archaeologist from the UK, and I have dedicated my life to uncovering the mysteries of the past. This journey began on a cold winter day in Siberia, where I received an ancient map, worn down by time but still revealing a mysterious area no one had ever set foot in. According to the map, this was the place where the remains of a mammoth, a giant extinct creature, had been buried thousands of years ago. With the support of an international research team, I decided to embark on this expedition. Although no one could be sure that the mammoth remains would appear, we all believed that this was the only chance to uncover a part of the past, a time when great creatures roamed during the Ice Age. The journey was far from simple. Strong winds, unexpected snowstorms, and muddy roads made everything incredibly difficult. But the closer we got to the indicated area, the more I felt the magic of the journey. My team, consisting of archaeologists, biologists, and environmental experts, worked tirelessly. With each step, I felt we were getting closer to our goal, but I was also filled with anxiety and excitement. Would we find the remains of the creature that once dominated this land? With meticulous preparation, we reached the site. Beneath the thick ice, I saw a distinct sign. There was a sunken patch of earth, seemingly having been depressed for a long time, as though something large had been buried beneath this layer of soil. My team immediately began excavating. The feeling was indescribable. I couldn't stop. My heart was racing in my chest. As the ice was cleared, I saw part of the colossal body, its fur still intact, despite the passage of thousands of years. The mammoth's long tusks were exposed from the earth. I couldn't believe my eyes. This wasn't just an archaeological discovery, this was a wonder that history had hidden. The mammoth's remains were still quite intact, creating a rare sight that only someone like me could witness. The whole team paused, all silent, only the sound of tense breathing filling the stillness of the frozen landscape. Beneath the ice, an ancient secret had been revealed. I knew that this time we hadn't just found an animal's remains, but a historical story never before told. But just when I thought I had seen it all, something strange happened. One of the team members discovered a smaller object buried under another layer of earth, far from the mammoth's remains. This object was oddly shaped and entirely different from anything I had seen regarding Ice Age animals. It could be a tool or an artifact used by ancient people. We decided to continue digging, and what we found made me reconsider everything I thought I knew about human history. It seemed this mammoth hadn't only lived in a harsh world, but also had some connection with other creatures, perhaps with humans from the Stone Age. Just as we were preparing to continue our work, I suddenly realized something important. The massive mammoth tusks we were excavating had a shape different from what I had previously seen in the records. The biologists on our team began analyzing them closely. These details were not just part of a giant animal, but could also reveal how it adapted to the harsh environment. The excavation had turned into a race against time. The ice layers were melting quickly, and we had only a short window to gather as much information as possible. But even in the face of these challenges, I felt that this journey was becoming one I would never forget. In the following days, we continued digging deeper into the frozen soil. The excitement and tension grew as the mammoth's bones and body parts slowly emerged. However, what surprised me most was an unexpected discovery. While digging, one of the team members found a strange object buried in the ice near the mammoth's tusks. It was a meticulously crafted tool set, seemingly used by prehistoric humans. The more I looked at it, the clearer the connection between the mammoth and the Ice Age hunters became. This tool set proved that humans had not only hunted these giant creatures but had interacted with them, a concept I had never dared to imagine before. This wasn't just a discovery about animals, but also evidence of the interaction between species in ancient history. I began to view everything differently. This discovery didn't just open a door to the world of ancient animals, but also to how humans lived, existed, and fought in a harsh world. We collected additional specimens from the tool set, the mammoth bones, and other parts of the animal, to send to the laboratories. The research would help us better understand how humans adapted to the environment and used tools in their daily lives. Even as we began gathering data, I couldn't stop thinking about one big question. Could there be even more stories buried in this ice? Could these secrets completely change how we perceive the past? With each step of the excavation, we discovered more peculiar details. The mammoth's teeth, although worn down by time, were still impressive. We also found cuts and wounds on the mammoth's bones, possibly signs of attacks from Ice Age hunters. These marks made me question the relationship between humans and animals at that time. Were these mammoths the only source of life for humans then? Or were they part of the fierce survival struggle? It felt like I was opening a history book that ancient humans had written thousands of years ago. I could not only sense the presence of extinct creatures, but also feel the life and struggle of humans in that wild world. One day, while we were continuing the excavation, one of the researchers found another strange object. It was a stone axe, seemingly used in human hunting activities. This further reinforced the hypothesis that Ice Age humans hunted mammoths. The connection between humans and this animal became even clearer. As we began analyzing the stone axe, specialists on prehistoric tools and weapons recognized that the craftsmanship was highly sophisticated. This was not the crude tools we typically think of when considering early humans. It was clear evidence of the advancement in tool-making techniques in human history. The next noteworthy discovery was about the signs of hunting. Archaeologists and biologists in the team had found unmistakable traces on the mammoth's bones. These cuts weren't natural. They were the marks of sharp tools. The whole group believed these were signs of hunting, possibly a large-scale hunting campaign for meat, skin, and tusks. We couldn't be certain whether this was the first time humans faced mammoths in a large-scale hunt, but it was undoubtedly a key part of their existence. Such hunts had contributed to the survival of an early civilization in a harsh world. We continued the excavation journey, and each day, new strange details emerged. One morning, as we dug deeper into a thick layer of ice, I noticed a thinner layer of soil beneath. When we continued digging, I was stunned to see fragments of something very special. It could be a nose or even a human skeleton. But the remaining parts confused me. It was a strange object, unlike anything I had ever seen. We kept digging, and finally, I realized it was part of an ancient stone tool, possibly used in hunting. These tools weren't just crude implements. They were crafted with precision. The hands of the people of that time must have carefully used them to interact with large animals like mammoths. And I began to wonder, could these tools be more deeply related to hunting and the way humans survived during the Ice Age? Not only the stone tools, but also the parts of the mammoth's body were astonishing. One day, while examining the mammoth's bones, I discovered a strange crack in the femur. At first, I thought it was just wear from age, but on closer inspection, I realized it was a mark from a sharp weapon. One of the researchers suggested that the mammoth might have been attacked by Ice Age hunters, further reinforcing the idea that the mammoth had faced attacks from humans. These marks made me think that Ice Age humans were very clever in using tools for hunting, and they had probably defeated a powerful animal like the mammoth using tactics and skills. It was incredible to think that we were uncovering relationships never recorded in history. One night, when the whole team was resting in the camp, I stepped outside to look at the sky. The scene outside was magnificent, the sky full of stars, like an ancient painting, and I couldn't help but reflect on everything we had discovered. There was something strange, a feeling as if I was listening to whispers from the past, as if the people and creatures of the Ice Age were still present somewhere in this space. Suddenly, I thought about everything we had uncovered. Each piece of bone, each fragment of a tool, each trace seemed to tell a story. A story about how the hunters had to struggle, about the mammoths fighting with their predators, and about the survival of both species in a harsh world. These stories weren't just memories from thousands of years ago, but lessons about survival, about the relationship between humans and nature. One of the most fascinating discoveries during the excavation was the strange marks on the mammoth's skeleton. The cracks on the bones didn't resemble any natural traces I had ever seen. They seemed to be the result of a powerful external force, and I couldn't help but think that the mammoth might have been attacked by a forceful predator. These marks could help us better understand the hunting strategies of early humans, and I began to wonder if this mammoth had been the victim of a large-scale hunting operation. When I presented these findings to my colleagues, they shared those same amazement. Everything was becoming clearer. We weren't just excavating a mammoth's remains. We were opening a door to ancient secrets never before revealed. One morning, as we continued digging deeper into the earth, I noticed a remarkable sign. A part of a mammoth's bone had been buried strangely, as if it had been buried along with another object. It was an animal bone with a distinct shape and signs of being finely carved. This was proof that humans had intervened in the mammoth's survival process. This reinforced my theory that these mammoths didn't just exist in the wild. They had a special connection with the humans of the Ice Age. These traces will be the key to understanding how humans and animals lived and interacted with each other in the past. We had embarked on a journey not only to uncover history, but to decipher the ancient secrets buried under the ice for millennia. The excavation continued beneath the thick layers of ice, and with each passing day, I felt like we were getting closer to uncovering something truly monumental. One day, while I was examining a piece of mammoth bone, I discovered a strange fragment shaped in an unusual way. As I looked closer, I realized this wasn't just a typical bone fragment. It was a finely crafted tool, sharp and polished. This confused me, as it didn't appear to be a tool that Ice Age humans would typically use. I brought this fragment to the team for further analysis, and we started examining it more closely. Experts in prehistoric tools and weapons noted that this object was unlike anything they had encountered before. It could be a relic from a long-lost civilization, or perhaps evidence of other beings we had never encountered. The journey we were on felt increasingly surreal. We weren't just finding traces of mammoths. We were uncovering pieces of the past that could completely shift our understanding of history. As we continued to dig, another researcher found a different set of animal bones. This wasn't a mammoth, but an entirely different species. I was shocked, as none of us had ever considered that another creature might have lived alongside the mammoths in this region. The bones of this creature were unlike anything we had seen before, with peculiar shapes and structures, as if they had been hunted by migrating human groups from distant areas. At first, we hypothesized that this could be an animal that humans during the Ice Age had domesticated or tamed. I was becoming more immersed in the untold story of an ancient world where humans and animals coexisted, surviving and evolving in a challenging ecosystem. This discovery opened up new possibilities about how early humans interacted with the animals around them, and how they might have shaped their environment for survival. These new findings made me ponder a larger question. Could it be that these ancient animals were not only hunted, but were used by humans for survival in ways we hadn't imagined? Perhaps these creatures played a more significant role in helping Ice Age humans survive the harsh conditions of their time. We continued our excavation and analyzed the new specimens. One of the biologists in our team suggested that the bones and tools we had found might prove a deeper, more intricate relationship between humans and ancient creatures. Maybe they were used in rituals, or perhaps these animals were central to the hunting tactics humans developed to thrive in the Ice Age. As we pushed on with our excavation, we made another incredible discovery. A fragment of what appeared to be a ceremonial object was found buried alongside the bones. It was a stone ring, adorned with strange carvings on its surface. The carvings didn't resemble any known cultural symbols, and our team believed this could be an ancient belief system, something that humans of the Ice Age developed to connect with nature and the animals they hunted. This discovery made me reflect deeply on the lives of these ancient humans. They lived in a perilous world, and their survival was likely tied to their beliefs, rituals, and connection to the natural world. These artifacts weren't just tools. They were remnants of a lost civilization, a people who used their knowledge of the earth and its creatures to not only survive, but thrive. The more we dug into the layers of earth and ice, the more I felt connected to the past. The tools, bones, and strange artifacts we found weren't just pieces of an archaeological journey. They were vital parts of the story about the relationship between humans and nature, between humankind and the creatures they shared the planet with. I couldn't help but wonder, how did Ice Age humans perceive nature? Did they truly see creatures like the mammoths as integral to their survival? Or were they merely seen as animals to be hunted for food? These questions were yet to be answered, but I sensed that we were embarking on a journey not just to uncover the past, but to better understand ourselves and how we lived in such a wild, unforgiving world. As I continued to dig deeper, I felt like everything was gradually becoming clearer. One afternoon, as the sun dimmed to a faint streak of light in the darkening sky, I, along with a small group, made our way toward a new area. Suddenly, as I drove my shovel into the ice, I heard a strange sound, almost like the earth being torn apart. I stopped, lifting my head to look at my team. One of my colleagues also felt the same tremor. We quickly started digging more intensely and soon discovered yet another treasure. It was a massive cluster of bones with a distinctive shape. We couldn't believe our eyes. It was a skeleton of a large animal, possibly a mammoth, but this one was entirely different from the others we had found before. As an archaeologist, I had witnessed many remarkable discoveries, but this one felt different. My colleagues and I stood in silence, focused on unearthing the peculiar bones. The sensation felt like the revival of the past, as though we were reigniting a flame from an ancient era. After confirming the origin of these bones, we began conducting thorough analysis. Surprisingly, we discovered that these bones weren't from the common mammoths we had already documented. One of the prehistoric animal specialists pointed out that this skeleton resembled a species that had only been mentioned in academic records, but had never been found in reality. Our research team began to speculate that this could be a previously unknown species of mammoth, or a new branch of the species that we had never known before. This revelation was astonishing, as it could change everything we knew about the evolution of the mammoth. For me, this discovery was worth more than just a breakthrough. It was proof of something I had always believed. The past is full of surprises, with untold stories waiting to be uncovered. We had never been closer to uncovering the mysteries of history. One day, while working with the new bone fragments, I suddenly noticed something fascinating. One of the mammoth tusks showed unusual markings. These signs on the tusk didn't seem to be from decomposition, but possibly something that had been used for manipulation or crafting. This made me think about the connection between the mammoth hunters and how they might have used the tusks as part of their survival strategy. Perhaps Ice Age humans didn't just hunt mammoths, but also utilized their parts as tools to craft weapons or other instruments. What we were discovering was an answer to a question I had pondered throughout this journey, whether these massive creatures like the mammoths played a more significant role in human survival than we had ever imagined. As the specimens were sent to the lab, I began reflecting on all that we had found. The mammoth bones, the stone tools, the strange artifacts, each was a crucial piece of the ancient world. We weren't just uncovering the remains of an extinct animal, but an important part of the story of life, of survival strategies employed by species that once walked this earth. The more I delved into our findings, the more I felt that this journey was not just about a long-extinct species, but about the relationship between humanity and nature, about how we once shared this planet with other magnificent creatures. I felt like I was opening a new door, a door leading to an ancient world, where the past still lives in the fragments of bones and tools, and I, Lucas Hartley, was lucky enough to witness it. One day, after analyzing all the specimens and data, we concluded that this was one of the most important discoveries of our archaeological careers. This wasn't just the remains of a mammoth, but a sign of the survival of a civilization that had existed thousands of years ago. The clues we had found about how humans interacted with animals, how they hunted, and even the rituals they performed could completely change how we understand human history. I couldn't help but feel immense pride. We had experienced an exploration journey that not only brought us valuable discoveries, but also helped us understand the development and existence of humankind on this planet. On an afternoon, as we prepared to leave the excavation site, I stopped for a moment, looking at the vast landscape around me. The snow covered everything, and I felt a profound peace. Everything we had found, everything we had learned, was contributing to rewriting history. For me, this wasn't just a job in archaeology. It was a journey that brought us closer to the past, to secrets that had never been revealed. And I knew that this journey would never end, because what we discovered today was only the beginning of endless explorations into the ancient world. As we returned to camp to rest after a long day of digging, a violent snowstorm hit. The wind howled through the cracks in the tents, sweeping snow in all directions, covering everything. Everyone in the team was worried as the situation became dangerous. I knew we had a short amount of time to finish the excavation work. However, a part of me felt a strange exhilaration, as though nature itself was testing our perseverance. Standing in the middle of the snowstorm, I looked at the precious specimens we had collected, and I realized that this was the moment for us to prove our strength, not just for this excavation, but for a long journey full of challenges, but also glory. I felt I was not just an archaeologist, but a part of this story. In the days that followed, we continued to dig through the deep snow, and with each shovel of earth we uncovered, it felt as though we were touching a piece of the past. I thought of the generations before us, those people who lived and fought in a harsh world with no modern conveniences. They only had crude tools, but they were smart enough to create survival strategies that we today can only admire. One day, when I was sitting in the camp studying the specimens, I reflected on the connection between the generations. What we were doing now, the discoveries we were documenting, would be treasures for future generations. The lives of prehistoric humans weren't just about survival. They were stories of creativity, endurance, and the ability to adapt to every circumstance. I realized that we weren't just reenacting the past, we were creating a bridge between the people of today and those who lived thousands of years ago. Each discovery we made was a reminder of the resilience of humans, of our survival abilities, and the creativity we can draw from history. One morning, when our team prepared to continue work, I looked at the newly uncovered mammoth skeleton. It was a special bone fragment, perhaps from an animal that had never been discovered in archaeological history. This bone had a strange shape, and I knew this would be our biggest discovery yet. The whole team felt a sense of excitement as we began to study the specimen. Every detail, every bone fragment held a story. This wasn't just an archaeological treasure, it was a huge question that we needed to answer. Which species did this animal belong to? Did it exist at the same time as the mammoth? These questions felt like a challenge for us, a call to explore more and expand our knowledge of the past. In the days that followed, we cleaned the excavation site and packed the specimens to send to the laboratories. The feeling at that moment was hard to describe, part joy at our success and part sorrow that the journey was coming to an end. However, I knew that although we had gathered all these precious specimens, the questions were still there, questions that I or anyone else in our team couldn't immediately answer. We would continue our research and unravel these mysteries, but I also realized something more important. The journey was not just about the archaeological discoveries, but about opening doors to new understandings of ourselves, about our relationship with nature, with the past, and with the present. Standing on the frozen ground of Siberia, I felt connected to something greater than just being an archaeologist. I felt like a part of all those creatures that lived and fought for survival in a challenging world. What we discovered today wasn't just ancient specimens. It was stories of survival, of our connection to the world around us. This journey had ended, but I knew that in our treasure trove of knowledge, the story of the mammoth and Ice Age humans would continue forever. A new chapter would be written for future generations, and I, like many others, would continue the journey to uncover the mysteries of the ancient world. We had only scratched the surface of a larger story, and this journey, without a doubt, would never end.